Hey, this is René, welcome back to another video on this channel. And today I want to write a trend following expert advisor, so an automated trading program for the MetaTrader 5. And this will be a really simple program actually, because I just want to follow the current trend or the current price action. So this is a price action EA, and the idea is that let's say we start at the current market price here, which is at around 1.0827. And from this point on, we will wait for the price to increase or decrease a specific amount of points, let's say 100, and then we will open a trade into this direction. And then we will just observe the price movement, and if it falls another 100 points, we would open another sell position. For another 100 points, we would open another sell position, and so on, and so on, and so on. And once the market turns around and reaches like 100 points above the previous level, then we will close the sell positions and open a buy position. So the idea is that if we see strong market moves like this one, we should build up a strong sell position, which can generate a lot of profit. And once the market turns around, we will just try to make profit trading the other direction. So it's a really simple idea. And I want to show how to write a program for this. This will be a really easy program, I think. So even as a beginner, you will be able to follow along. Also, if you're interested in MetaTrader 5 programming, make sure to check out the link in the video description. And you will find a link to a complete course where you learn everything you need to know about MetaTrader 5 programming. So you will be able to write your own programs. And you do not need any knowledge to participate in this course. So let's get back to this video and this strategy. To write an expert advisor in the MetaTrader 5, we will use the MetaQuartz language editor. So you can click on this IDE button, or you can go to Tools, MetaQuartz language editor, and this will open the MetaQuartz language editor. For you, it will probably look like this, so you probably do not have any open programs if you never wrote your own expert advisor. And then you can just go to the upper left corner and click on this new button, and then click on next. Provide a name for your program here. So we can say something like trend follower, something like this. Just choose any name for your program and click on next, next, and finish. We do not change any of these settings. So then it creates the raw skeleton for a new expert advisor, and we have a lot of these gray lines. You can just remove them because all of these gray lines are just comments for the programmer, and they do not have any influence on the program itself. Also, personally, I like to rearrange my brackets a bit. So I like to open and close my curly brackets like this. So I have the opening bracket after a function name, which is this, and then I have the closing bracket at the beginning of a new line. But it's totally fine if you would just want to keep it like this. It will not make any difference for the program. Also at the top we have 3 properties, but again these properties do not have any impact on the program, so I will simply remove them for to make the code look cleaner and easier to have a good overview. So what we want to do is we want to have a price which is pretty much a fixed or the last level where the price was. So for example, right now it is here at this 1.08 blah blah blah. So we will have to store this price in a variable. A variable is just a storage pretty much for a value, and you can store different values in variables. You can store numbers like this, but you can also store numbers like this, and you can see there's a difference because the second or the numbers in the second block here, they all have a decimal point. So this is a different data type. You could also have variables like this, which would be a text, or something like true or false, which is another variable type. We need to have different variable types in computer programming because the variable type defines how much space in your memory, your working memory, is reserved for this specific value. So in this case, if we have a look at all of these blocks again, it's pretty clear that we need this kind of variable because the prices in a chart or the prices of a symbol usually have a decimal point. So these variables with a decimal point are called double variables. So what we can do here is we can write this word double, which is just the variable data type, and then we can choose any name for our variable. So we can say something like base level. This will be the base level. And then we need to add a semicolon to end this line. And if we now compile the program, clicking on this compile button up here, you can see the code is generated and this text file is turned into a executable file, which we can then run in the MetaTrader 5. So if we go to the MetaTrader 5 and go to the navigator, which you can open by clicking on View Navigator if you do not see it. And then you can click on Expert Advisors. You can search for the name of your program. In this case, it was Trend Follower, so it is here. And now I can drag and drop it on any chart. So then I have to just click on Yes and verify this. So now you can see it will open this window. If I click on OK again, then it will be attached to this chart, and in the upper right corner here you will see the name of your program and this little head sign. So this program is now running on this chart, and right now it doesn't do anything because we just declared a variable. I mean, it will reserve the space in the memory of your PC for this value, but nothing really happens because there is no code in the so-called event handling functions of this program. And the event handling functions, or some of them, are here already. So this was part of the base skeleton of our program, and we will find the onTick, the onInit, and the OnInit function. This is the OnInit, of course, this is the onTick. So what we can do is we can add code in the curly brackets, or between the curly brackets, the so-called body of the function. So we could add code here, here, or here. And it depends in what, we can add code in all of these three functions, but all of these three functions have a different purpose. So the OnInit function is the initialization function of the program. So this function will be executed, and by executed I mean the code inside of the body of this function will be executed. This one will be executed if the program is initialized. And this happens if it is attached to a chart for the first time, or if the time frame changes or something like this happens. The onInit is called and executed, like the code in the body of the onInit function is executed when the program is, for example, removed from the chart. So deinitialized. And then we have the onTick function, which is usually the most important function for a program. This function is executed whenever there is a tick, so a price movement in the chart. So what we want to do here now is we want to, first of all, go to, probably to the OnInit function. And here we want to say the base level, like we just use the name of this variable. And now we initialize it, or we put a value inside of this variable, which means at the position where this variable is located in the memory of your PC, we will store a value now. Because a variable is always just a link to a specific space in the random access memory of your PC. And we can add a value here, like this. And if we compile this, this will work. So we just use this equal, we choose any value, and then we end the line with a semicolon. And you can see this works. And if we now go ahead and say something like, or we go to the onTick function and we write a chart comment, which we can do by using the comment function. And this function is part of the mql5 framework, so we can use it right away. So we can write comment, and then in the round brackets, we will have to provide a parameter for this function. And here we will just choose our base level variable as a parameter. So this will write the value inside of this variable in the upper left corner of the chart. So if we have a look at our chart now, we can see 23.23 printed in the upper left corner of the chart. And of course, we don't really want this value, right? We want a value that makes sense. So what we will do is we will say we want to store the bid price, the current bid price inside of this base level variable. So we will say symbol info double, which is another system function, and we can use this function to get any information or to get specific information about a specified symbol. So in the round brackets of this function, we will have to define the symbol name that we want to get the information for. And in this case, it would be euro US dollar. So we could write it like this, but we could also use symbol underscore symbol, which is a system variable which always returns or holds the value of the chart or the symbol name of the chart where this EA is attached to. So in this case, it's euro US dollar for me. For you, it might be a different chart. And then as a second parameter, which we can add by writing a comma, and then we write a so-called identifier here, and this is symbol bit. So once you write the comma, you can see all the possible options, and we will choose the symbol bit option here to get the current bit price for the symbol. So if I compile this again, you will see what happens. We will see the bit price now in the upper left corner. Okay, so now the OnInit, as I said, is also called if I change the time frame. So if I change the time frame, you can see if the bit price changed, it will also change the comment in the upper left corner. And you can play around with this on your own PC to understand the concept. But now I want to do something. I want to move this to the onTick function. So cut, because I don't want to change the value whenever the time frame is changed. So I just cut and paste it in the onTick function, and I want to add the code if base level is equal to 0. What this does is, it is a simple if statement. And a if statement can be used in programming to choose any condition that you like, and the condition is placed in these round brackets after the code word if, and then the PC checks this condition. And if this condition is true, so it checks if the base level value is equal to 0, and if this is true, it will do everything in the body of this if statement. So if the base level is 0, then we will update the value. So what this does is, we still get the same result kinda, but if we change the time frame, it won't update the value because the value is already greater than 0. Okay, so why do we do all this? We want to do this because we want to check if the bit price then changes, and if it is like 100 points above or below this base level. So first of all, let me do something else. Let me create another double variable, and this will be called bit. And I just want to store the bit price in this variable. But I move it outside of the if statement, so it is updated whenever the onTick function is called. And here I can now just use this bit variable to store the value in the base level variable. And I can still use this bit value or this bit variable for more calculations, like this. I want to check if the current bit price is greater base level plus, and now I could write something like this, which would be 100 points. But I could also write something like this, 100 multiplied with the point value of the current chart. Because this underscore point works similar to the underscore symbol, and this will give us the point value of the current chart. And in this case, it is euro US dollar, which has 5 digits after the decimal point. So the point value is 0.00001. And this multiplied with the 100 here will result into 001, like this. So this is the calculation that we do. And by using this syntax, you can use the EA in any symbol, and it will always use the correct point value for the symbol. So in this case, we want to open a buy order, right? Also, we want to check, and we can concatenate multiple if statements by using this else if formula. We can say if bit is smaller than base level minus 100 multiplied with point, then we want to send a sell order, right? So something like this. So let's compile the program, and you can see there are no errors. If you compile and there are any errors at this point, you should compare your code like really slow and accurate to the code that I've wrote here to figure out where you forgot a semicolon, for example, or where you got your bracket placement wrong. So, okay, so this is the code right now. And what we have to do now is we have to send buy and sell orders, right? And also afterwards, we have to update the base level. So we will update the base level. We could write something like this, which would update the base level to the next level where we triggered a order. And a shorter form of doing this is just writing it like this. The result is completely the same. Also for the sell order, we will have to update the base level, but here we will subtract the 100 points. Also, if you want to change the 100 points later in testing, for example, there's a better way of doing it instead of just hard coding the 100 points in the code here. We can create a so-called input variable. And to create an input variable, you should go to the very top of your program outside of any function body and then write input, then the data type of your variable, which is in this case a integer data type, which is also a number like the double data type, but in this case the decimal point is not allowed. So these are just numbers like 23, blah, 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 something like this. Because something like this would be a double value and cannot be stored in an integer variable. So we can say something like, I don't know, grid or level distance, whatever you want to call it. And we can say 100 here, level distance points. And now I can use this variable name and use it whenever I want to use the 100 points. Because now, if we go back to the program, like after compiling, if we go back to the program and if we double click this little head next to the name of the program, we will see the inputs list of the program. And you can see our input variable is listed here. So the user is able to change this quickly. And then the program will always use the value that the user provided for this variable. So this is where we can use input variables. Okay, so what's next? We want to open positions, right? And the easiest way to open positions in MetaTrader programming is to use the ctrade class. I will not go into detail here. If you want to learn more about the ctrade class and object-oriented programming in general, check out the link in the video description for the complete course and you will understand everything. So for this tutorial, it's just important to know that we can now use the ctrade class to create a so-called object variable. So this is just like any other variable, but it's not an integer or double value. It's not like a single value, but instead it is a so-called object. And this object has different variables, or this object is a structure or data format that holds different variables and functions. So we can use this trade object variable here to open positions because the ctrade class provides a function to easily open positions. So we can write trade and then we use this point operator here to then have access to the functions. And you can see, for example, that we have this buy function. And this function has a lot of parameters. You can see the parameter list if you open the round brackets after the function name. So these are parameters that we can provide, like for example, the position volume. And I would suggest to create another input variable for this. You can call it lots, for example. So we will open lots positions here pretty much. And if we have the sell signal, we want to use the trade object variable and use the point operator and then call the sell function. The rest is kind of the same, so we will have to provide the volume. Okay, so like this. And this is actually already enough for a working program. So let me remove it from the chart here because from now on I want to demonstrate how it works in the strategy tester. To open the strategy tester, you can go to View. Let me close the toolbox and go to strategy tester. Or you can press Ctrl and R on your keyboard. If you go to Overview, you should use Visualized for a visualized test. and then you can choose the expert advisor here that you want to test. In this case, of course, I will use the trend follower. Then you choose a symbol, a time frame. In this case, it doesn't really matter because we have a price action EA and it doesn't really work with time frames. And then you choose a period in which you want to test the program, and the rest can stay pretty much like it is here. Make sure that this visual mode tick box is checked. And then you could change the inputs here, but for now I will just go with the defaults. And then we go to start in the lower right corner. And this will run the program or simulate the program on historical data. And you can see it is already going crazy here. It's opening a lot of positions because, yeah, the price changes, of course. So we have moves, up moves and down moves. And yeah, you can see in the upper left corner, the value for the last level that was touched is always updated. And we open a lot of positions. The problem is these positions are not really closed. So this is something we will have to take care of. Oh, and here the perfect example of what we are looking for with this program. So in situations like this, we can really capitalize on these moves. But let's go back to the program. So just close the strategy tester, go back to the source code. And now we want to make sure that whenever we open a new buy position, we will close existing sell positions. So the easiest way to do so is use trade and then position. No, we cannot just close all the positions because then we would also open the close the buy positions that we do not want to close. So here we have to close all the sell positions. So what we have to do is we have to check all the open positions and find the sell positions and then close these sell positions. So to do so, we will use a so-called for loop. So we will write for, then in round brackets, we have a precondition, which is integer e is equal to 0. We will just create another variable, and this variable is just alive for this for loop. And then we write a semicolon, then we have the main condition, which is, we want to initialize I with the return value of positions total minus 1, because positions total is a function that returns the total amount of positions that are currently open in your account. And then we want to check if I is greater or equal 0, and then we write another semicolon, and then we have another piece of code which is executed after every iteration of this loop. And this is I minus minus, which just means that I is reduced by 1. Then we close the round brackets of this for loop, and then we have the body of the for loop in curly brackets again. Bodies are always wrapped by curly brackets. So in the body, we will add the code that is executed whenever the loop is executed, pretty much. So once the code reaches this for loop in line 25, it will first of all execute this first precondition. So it will create another integer variable called I. It will put the return value of positions total minus 1 inside of this value, and then it will check if I is greater or equal 0. If this is true, the body is executed. Afterwards, I will be subtracted by 1, so the value is reduced by 1. Then the condition is checked again. If it's still true, we execute the body again, reduce the value, check again, execute again, reduce, check, execute, reduce, and it goes on. And at some point, since we reduce I after every iteration of the loop, at some point I will be smaller than 0. And then this is the moment when we leave the loop and process the rest of the code here. So inside of this loop, what we want to do is we want to get the position ticket of the position at index I, because open positions are always they always have a index. Like the first open position in your account is index 0, second one is index 1, third one is index 2, and so on and so on. So what we want to do here is we want to create an unsigned long variable, and a long variable or unsigned long variable is pretty similar to an integer variable. So it's just any number, but long variables can be even bigger. So we can hold even bigger numbers, or we can store even bigger numbers in long variables. So it's similar to an integer variable, but just with really big numbers. And we have to have different data types for this, because a long variable will need more space in your memory to store bigger numbers, of course. So we will have different data types for this. So we will use this unsigned long variable, which we call position ticket, and then we use the position get ticket function, which is again part of the mql5 framework. And you will learn about all of these functions in the MetaTrader 5 masterclass if you're interested. But for this tutorial, just use this function, and then as a parameter, the position index is requested. This is what I explained before. We will just use I here. So now we will store the position ticket inside of this variable. And what we can do next is we will check if if we can select a position using this position ticket. Oh, we need the position select by ticket function. So if we are able to select a position, then we will check if position get integer, and this will give us a information about the currently selected position. So if there is a position selected, we can now search for the position type like this, and we can check if the position type is equal to position type cell. So what we do here is pretty much we just loop through all the open positions, and if we found a position, we will check if it is a cell position. And if we found a cell position, then we will use the trade object variable to close this position, because there is this position close function which just needs a position ticket, and this is great because we have one stored in the position ticket variable. So this is the piece of code that we need to close all the cell positions in the program. So I will just copy this code, paste it before we open another cell position, because here I want to search for all the buy positions. And the only thing that I have to exchange here is I don't want to search for position type sell, but instead I want to search for position type buy. The rest can stay completely the same. So if I compile this, this is pretty much the complete program. So let's have a look at this in the strategy tester. Let's go back to the MetaTrader 5. Strategy tester is still open. I don't change anything. I just click start in the lower right corner. And now we should see that before we open a new position, the previous position is closed. So you can see we only have positions open in one direction. And of course, this EA can only make profit if we see more than 2 positions in one direction. So we really need these big moves to actually make profits. But if we see them, we could make some profits. So let's play this through. There you can see was a nice down move, and I think there was another big down moves that we saw before. And you can also see in the MetaTrader, like if you have a look at the graph, you can see like in sideways markets, of course, we will make losses. But then if there's a really big move, we can make up for all of the losses and generate nice profits. So the idea is to just really follow long trends. And this EA that could be used in trendy markets. You would have to play around with the grid settings a little bit, maybe adjust the EA a little bit. You could add a TP, some stop loss mechanisms, and even a trailing stop if you want to modify the EA. But I think for this tutorial, I just wanted to show you this rather easy concept, and I hope everyone was able to follow along. Let's have a look here. Yeah, right now it's not really profitable, but of course you can always change the level distance here, for example, to 300. And this should take away some of the losses in the sideways markets, because it will take far longer for the EA to open multiple positions, and you can really benefit from the really long trends, and you won't lose so much in the sideways movements. But yeah, just play around with this concept, and yeah, if you think that you would have to turn it around to be profitable, which it looks like right now, this would be another good task to learn programming and to improve your programming skills. So let me know in the comment section if you like this tutorial, and yeah, let me explain you the code one last time and then I will end this video. So what we do here is we just include the trade.mql5 file to have access to the ctrade class. Then we created these two input variables. Again, these are the variables that the user can change easily without having to change the source code. Then we create two so-called global variables because they are not declared inside of any function, which is the trade object variable and the base level double variable. Then we have the OnInit and OnInit function. We do not use these functions at all. So if you want, you can just delete them. It will not change the program. Then we have the onTick function, and in this function we first of all get the bid price for the current tick. Then we check if there is a value in the base level variable. If there's no value inside of it, we will initialize it with the bid value. Then we check if the price is now X points above the base level. In this case, we search for existing sell positions, and if we find an existing sell position, we close it. After closing all of the open sell positions, we open a buy trade and update the base level variable. If the price drops X points below the base level variable, we will search for existing buy trades. If we find one, we will close it, and then we open a sell position and update the base level variable. Also, we have a chart comment with the value that is currently stored in the base level variable. So you can see this is a really easy program, just like 40 lines of code. So it's I hope that you were able to follow along. And if you're interested in mql5 programming, check out the link in the video description. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate the support on the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, have a great time and good trades. Bye bye.